Here is to draw a triangle, a square, and a pentagon. So if we run the code, we can see that it's going to just draw those three shapes. And the way this works is by using what are called variables. Variables are kind of like placeholders that we give names to that will store a value for us that we can use over and over again later. And they're more like a convenience to us. So we can see throughout the code we're using like, oh, repeat num size, or turn 360 divided by num size. So what that's essentially saying is that we have a variable called num size. And when we say repeat num size or do anything with num size, it's going to look at what we set num size to, which is 3. We can see set num size to 3. So it's going to be like, oh, num size equals 3, so just repeat 3. Same thing here with move side length steps. Side length is set to 80, so it's going to be like, oh, move 80 steps. So we're essentially assigning a name. We have a name, we create a name, and then we say, oh, this equals 3. So throughout you can see like, oh, we have move side length, repeat num size. We also have turn counterclockwise by 360 divided by num size degrees. So this will do this equation for us, 360 divided by num size. So that's 360 divided by 3. So we're going to turn that amount of times. Or side length plus 30, right? We're going to move side length, which is 80 plus 30. So 80 plus 30 is 110. So move 110 steps. So instead of having to write out 80 every time, we can just drag side length there. And then it gets even more convenient if we want to change what we want. We don't really have to keep track of the number that's stored in num size, because we can just change num size by 1 to get a shape that will have one more side. So we start out with 3, that's a triangle. If we do plus 1, change num size by 1, we get 4 sides, that's a square, and then we do it again to get a pentagon for 5 sides. And these might remind you of variables in like algebra, so you might have like x equals 2, but there are some differences, mainly that a variable in algebra, if you have x equals 2, x is always going to equal 2, right? So no matter what equation you use, x and x is going to equal 2 for this whatever problem you're doing. But as you can see here, we can change num size, or we can change side length, and we can change by 1, we can change by 100, we can even put another variable in there. We can change num size by num size. So num size will become num size plus num size. Or we could do num size, change num size by 10. So we take num size plus 10, and we store that new value inside num size. And that's how these variables are different from algebra. And that's everything about variables.